I get the theory of strength training for EDS, but how am I supposed to do it when I can barely move and I know that I'm just going to be in pain the next day? Don't worry, I get it, but here are some words of encouragement. Firstly, strength training does not have to be crazy heavy weights. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. Just like it can be big compound exercises, or it can be smaller single joint exercises just to strengthen the muscles around that joint. Strength training is one of the most versatile forms of exercise out there because we can grade it back and make it as easy or as low load as we need, or we can make it as progressed and heavy as we want. I've helped people come up with a strength routine that they can do from bed. For example, if their POTS is playing up or they just can't be upright for whatever reason, strength is something that we can adapt to any scenario, any situation, any level. The second thing is, and this is very important, it shouldn't hurt you. This might sound unbelievable, but hear me out. Contrary to the whole no pain, no gain thing, strength training actually is not supposed to hurt. If the training you're doing is hurting you, it's not the right training for you. If you have EDS and the training you're doing is hurting you, there's a good chance that the training you're doing has not been designed for the EDS body or has not taken the EDS body into account at all. For example, with EDS, I've noticed we can have these pretty extreme muscle imbalances where one muscle group is really strong and another muscle group is nowhere near as strong or efficient at performing a movement. And it's within this discrepancy between our strong muscles and our weak muscles, this imbalance, where we usually experience pain. Sometimes it might feel like I can't do any movements without pain. Often what we see here is that we haven't maybe taken these imbalances into account and corrected for those before we're applying load and moving under that load. What I always do with someone with Ehlers-Danlos is we do a lot of activation exercises before we actually start the training session to get these weaker or underperforming muscles a little bit more up to scratch. So when we go and apply load and do some strength exercises, we're coming at it from a more balanced perspective where everything is actually contributing how it is supposed to. Or at the very least, we're getting closer to that point where everything's doing what it's supposed to. There's so much more to account for with this. There's just so much misinformation out there on how to strength train in general, but also so many misguided opinions on how to strength train if you're injury prone. For example, doing high reps. A lot of people recommend high reps if you have Ehlers-Danlos or you're injury prone. Personally, I find this is where I get the most injured, with really high reps, and I know a lot of people with EDS who say the same. You need to make sure you're balancing rest and recovery with your actual training. And we need to account for any injuries or pain mechanisms that you have, as well as some common ones that a lot of people with Ehlers-Danlos have. For example, a lot of us have issues with our neck. How do we make sure that the exercises don't trigger that? A lot of us have sacroiliac joint issues. So if we go and do a bunch of lunges, that's probably going to trigger that. How can we protect our wrists from getting sore from doing a lot of exercises? These are just some common things with EDS that a well-informed Ehlers-Danlos trainer can account for and help you to actually train in a way that does not hurt you. Exercise, and in particular strength training done right, will expand your capacity. So even though it feels like you can't move now, it will actually expand your capacity so that you can do more. And remember, if the strength training you're doing is hurting you, then we need to change the strength training that you're doing. Pain is not an indication of progress. Pain is an indication that we need to adjust our approach.